The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council sparkled with its usual golden glow. Towering beings of various shapes and sizes moved through the space with practiced grace. Among them walked James Smith, the human representative to the council, though most species had to look down to notice him at all. "Oh, look at the little one. Isn't he adorable in his formal wear?" A tall, blue-skinned diplomat cooed at James as he passed. The human diplomat forced a polite smile, one he had practiced thousands of times over the past 3 years. The council had designated Earth as a protected nursery world shortly after first contact. In their eyes, humans were charming, primitive creatures who needed guidance and protection. The fact that humans had managed to develop space travel at all was seen as a cute accident, like a child stumbling upon their parents' toolbox. James took his seat at the massive council table, designed for beings 3 times his size. His feet barely touched the specially installed footrest. Around him, representatives from 100 worlds discussed matters of galactic importance, rarely bothering to include him in their conversations. "The trade routes through the spiral arm must be protected," announced first speaker Reed, his crystalline body catching the light. "We have reports of increasing pirate activity in the region." "Perhaps we should avoid routing ships near Earth's sector," suggested another council member. "We wouldn't want to expose our precious humans to any danger." Several members nodded in agreement, making soft sounds that passed for laughter among their species. James cleared his throat. Earth's defense forces could help patrol. "No, no, dear one," interrupted Council Member Blake, her feathered head tilting in what she thought was a kind gesture. "We couldn't possibly put your people at risk. You're still learning to handle basic space travel." What the Council didn't know, or chose to ignore, was that humanity's basic space travel had already developed shield technology that could withstand meteor storms. Their primitive weapon systems were based on principles that some council races hadn't even discovered yet. But humans had learned to play along. It was easier to be underestimated than feared. During the lunch break, James sat with other human diplomats in their designated area, which the council had decorated with what they thought were comfort items from Earth. Bright colors and soft cushions made it look like a children's playroom. "They patted my head again today," muttered Robert, another human diplomat. 3 different species. I'm 53 years old. "At least they didn't try to feed you this time," Lisa, the European Union representative, said while reviewing reports on her tablet. "Last week, someone tried to give me candy because I looked sad." James watched the other species moving around the hall. Some floated, others crawled. Many walked on various numbers of legs. They all shared one thing in common: a complete misunderstanding of human capabilities. The afternoon session brought more of the same. When pirates were discussed again, James quietly took notes. Earth's intelligence services would want to know about any threats, whether the Council thought they could handle them or not. "We should increase patrols around Earth," suggested a gas-based being floating near the ceiling. "The humans are so delicate. Their ships are practically defenseless." James thought about the military exercises he'd observed before leaving Earth. The new stealth fighters, the orbital defense platforms, the Marines training in zero gravity. But he just smiled and nodded, playing the role of the grateful primitive. As the session ended, first speaker Reed approached James with what passed for a gentle expression. "You've been very quiet today, little one. I hope the discussions haven't frightened you." "Not at all," James replied, maintaining his diplomatic smile. "I'm just happy to learn from such advanced beings." The speaker beamed with pride, completely missing the gleam in James's eye. As he walked back to the human quarter, James thought about the latest reports from Earth. Soon, very soon, the galaxy would learn that humanity was far from helpless. And when that day came, these patronizing smiles would fade very quickly indeed. The passenger ship Star Dreamer cruised through the quiet darkness of space. Inside, beings from 12 different worlds enjoyed the luxurious accommodations. Among them were 6 humans, tourists who had saved for years to afford this galactic cruise. Captain Mark stood at his post, his antennae twitching nervously. The ship's sensors had picked up strange readings, but he didn't want to frighten his passengers, especially not the delicate humans. The Council had made it very clear that human passengers needed extra care and protection. The first blast hit without warning. "Pirates!" shouted the first officer, his scales turning pale. 3 ships, heavily armed. The passenger lounge erupted in chaos. Most species ran in panic, while others froze in terror. The humans, however, quickly gathered together in a corner, their eyes scanning for exits and potential weapons. Tom, the lead pirate, stormed onto the Star Dreamer with his crew. They had done this a dozen times before. Take control quickly, grab the valuables, maybe hold some passengers for ransom. Simple and profitable. Everyone on the ground. Tom roared through his translator. His eyes fell on the human group. "Especially you little ones. Wouldn't want you to get hurt." The humans laid down slowly, but Tom noticed something odd. While other species trembled or froze, the humans kept watching, kept moving their eyes, kept thinking. It made him uncomfortable, though he couldn't explain why. The pirates herded the passengers into the cargo hold. It was standard procedure to lower the oxygen levels. Most species would become weak and compliant. But after an hour, something strange happened. While the other passengers wheezed and slumped against the walls, the humans remained alert. One of them, an older man named Bill, was actually doing exercises. "What's wrong with the atmospheric controls?" Tom demanded of his engineer. "Nothing," the engineer replied, checking the readings. "Oxygen is at 15%. Most species should be barely conscious." Tom watched through the security feeds as the humans huddled together, talking quietly. They showed no signs of weakness. Instead, they looked focused. "Impossible," Tom muttered. "They're supposed to be the weakest ones." He stormed into the cargo hold, pointing his weapon at Bill. "Stop moving. You're supposed to be unconscious." Bill looked up calmly. "Humans evolved on a planet with varying oxygen levels. This is nothing. We can handle much less." The other pirates shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't in any of their data about humans. The Council records clearly listed them as fragile creatures needing constant protection. "Check their biology reports again," Tom ordered his science officer. The officer pulled up the Council databases. "It says here they're non-threatening, need constant environmental control, and," he paused, looking confused. "Wait, there's something odd. These records, they're incomplete." Tom felt a chill run down his spine as he watched the humans through the security feed. They weren't cowering like the others. They weren't begging for mercy. They were waiting, planning. One of the humans, a woman named Alice, stood up despite the pirates' threats. "You should let us go," she said quietly. "Things will go better for you if you do." Tom laughed, but it sounded hollow even to him. "Sit down, little one. You're in no position to make threats." Alice smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It reminded Tom of the apex predators he'd seen in nature documentaries. "I'm not threatening. I'm warning." The pirates increased security around the cargo hold, but they couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. The humans shouldn't be this calm. They shouldn't be this alert. And they definitely shouldn't be smiling like that. As night cycle approached, Tom watched the security feeds with growing unease. The other passengers had fallen into uneasy sleep, but the humans remained awake, alert, and watching. Always watching. The pirates had made a serious mistake, but they didn't know just how serious it was. Not yet. They would learn soon enough. 3 days had passed since the pirates took control of the Star Dreamer. Tom paced in the command center, watching the security feeds with growing concern. His plan to break the passengers through sleep deprivation wasn't working as expected. Most species had already collapsed. The tall, graceful lights from the upper arms of the galaxy lay curled in corners, their glow dimmed to almost nothing. The rock-like miners had fallen into a deep hibernation state. Even the warrior-bred guards had succumbed to exhaustion after 40 hours without rest. But the humans stayed awake. "It's not possible," Tom's science officer whispered, checking his instruments again. "No species can stay alert this long." Through the monitors, they watched as Bill led the other humans in quiet exercises. They moved constantly, stretching their muscles, keeping their blood flowing. When one human showed signs of tiredness, the others would talk to them, tell stories, keep them engaged. 72 hours, the science officer reported. They should be hallucinating by now. Their brains should have shut down. Alice, the human woman who had warned them earlier, caught the camera's eye and smiled. She hadn't slept in 3 days, but her gaze remained sharp, predatory. "Did you know?" she called out, knowing the pirates were watching, that humans once hunted by chasing their prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. "We can go days without sleep when we need to." The other passengers watched the humans with a mixture of fear and awe. They had always seen humans as cute, helpless creatures. Now they weren't so sure. Tom called an emergency meeting with his crew. There must be something in their biology we're missing. Check the council records again. The records. His science officer looked troubled. They only show what humans want us to see. Basic data. Nothing deep. We thought they were too primitive to hide anything important. In the cargo hold, the humans had started taking turns doing walking circuits. Their footsteps echoed through the ship's corridors in a steady rhythm. Step after step after step. It was driving the pirates mad. "Make them stop," one of Tom's crew shouted. "The sound. It's like they're hunting us." "We are." Bill's voice came through the intercom. The humans had figured out how to access it hours ago. "Humans are persistence hunters. We don't need to be faster or stronger than our prey. We just need to outlast them." The pirates tried blocking the sound, but the steady footsteps seemed to echo in their minds. They posted extra guards, but the guards reported feeling washed, hunted, even when the humans weren't moving. By the 4th day, the pirates were the ones showing signs of breakdown. They jumped at shadows, fought among themselves, made mistakes. The humans just kept walking, kept watching, kept waiting. "How long can they keep this up?" Tom demanded. "The record for a human going without sleep is 11 days. Alice's voice came through the intercom again. "Would you like to test if we can break it?" The other passengers had started to stir, watching the humans with new understanding. These weren't the cute, helpless creatures the council had described. These were predators, wearing down their prey with terrifying patience. In the command center, Tom watched as his crew began to crack. Some hadn't slept in 2 days, too afraid to close their eyes with the humans prowling below. Others whispered about abandoning the mission. "They're not prey," the science officer muttered, staring at his screens. "They were never prey. We've made a terrible mistake." Through the monitors, the humans continued their relentless patrol. Their footsteps echoed through the ship like a heartbeat. Regular, unstoppable, hungry. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, a distress signal from the Star Dreamer reached the Galactic Council, carrying with it the first hints that humanity was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The humans hadn't just stayed awake. They had turned sleep deprivation into a weapon. And the hunters were about to become the hunted. Day 5 aboard the Star Dreamer brought a new tactic from the increasingly desperate pirates. Tom ordered all food supplies to be cut off from the cargo hold. In his experience, hunger was the quickest way to break any species' will. "Let's see how dangerous they are when they're starving," Tom announced to his crew, trying to sound confident despite his exhaustion. The other alien passengers began to show signs of severe distress within hours. The light beings dimmed further, their energy reserves depleting. The guards' scales turned pale, their mighty bodies weakening without constant nutrition. Even the rock-like miners began to crack under the strain of hunger. But the humans? They laughed. "Did you know," Bill's voice echoed through the ship's intercom, "that humans can survive without food for weeks?" Tom's science officer frantically searched through their databases. He's not lying. Their bodies store energy in something called fat cells. They can break down these reserves to survive. That's not the interesting part, Alice added, her voice carrying an edge that made the pirates shiver. We don't get weaker right away. In fact, hunger makes us more focused, more determined. The security feeds showed the humans continuing their exercises, though they'd been without food for over 24 hours. Their movements remained strong, deliberate. If anything, they seemed more alert than before. Impossible, one of the pirates whispered. The council records say they need constant feeding. They're supposed to be dependent creatures. Through the cameras, they watched as the humans began sharing stories about their history. Tales of people surviving in deserts, on mountains, in frozen wastes, all without food. Stories of their ancestors who tracked prey across vast distances, their bodies burning fat instead of stopping for meals. When humans are hungry, Bill explained to the other passengers, his voice carrying clearly through the ship's systems, our bodies don't shut down. They adapt. We evolved to hunt even when food was scarce, especially when food was scarce. The other alien captives listened in growing amazement. They had always been told that humans needed constant care and feeding. Now they watched as these same helpless creatures demonstrated incredible resilience. Tom noticed something else troubling. The humans weren't getting weaker. They were getting more organized. They had divided into watches, created exercise routines, and seemed to be measuring distances in the cargo hold. They're not breaking, Tom's first officer reported, his voice shaking. They're planning. On the 6th day without food, Alice stood facing a camera. Her face had grown leaner, but her eyes burned with an intensity that made even the distant pirates step back. You know what happens to hungry humans? She asked, her voice unnaturally calm. We get creative. We start seeing everything as a potential tool, a potential weapon. The pirates watched in horror as the humans began methodically testing the strength of various objects in the cargo hold. They worked with the patience of predators who knew their prey was trapped. Our bodies, Bill added, demonstrating a series of stretches that showed his unchanged strength, are built for this. When we're hungry, our minds get sharper. Our senses improve. We become efficient. The other passengers had started to gather around the humans, drawn to their strength rather than afraid of it. The galaxy's cute pets were revealing themselves to be something else entirely, apex predators playing a long game. Tom stared at the monitors, finally understanding his mistake. The pirates had taken creatures they thought were weak and put them in conditions that made them stronger, hungrier, more dangerous. We should have researched their hunting patterns, the science officer muttered, watching the humans test the cargo hold's door hinges. They don't hunt like normal predators. They make plans. They use tools. They're patient. As if hearing his words, Alice looked directly into the camera and smiled. It was the smile of a predator who knew the hunt was almost over. You know what the best part is? She asked softly. We're not even that hungry yet. On the 7th day, the pirates made their fatal mistake. During a routine check, one of Tom's crew got too close to the cargo hold door. That's when everything changed. It started with Bill. The elderly human who had been doing exercises suddenly moved with impossible speed. His hand shot through the small food delivery slot, grabbing the pirate's arm. The sound of breaking bone echoed through the corridor. Emergency. They're breaking out. The pirate screamed into his communicator. But something was different about the humans now. Their bodies were releasing something the ship's sensors had never detected before. Adrenaline. Bio readings are off the charts. The science officer shouted, staring at his screens. Their hearts are pumping at triple speed. Their muscles are operating beyond normal capacity. The cargo hold door, designed to withstand space itself, groaned under the combined force of 6 humans pushing against it. Metal that should have been impossible for their weak bodies to bend began to warp. How are they doing this? Tom demanded. They haven't eaten in days. It's called the fight or flight response. Alice's voice came through the intercom one last time. And we're done with flight. The door burst open. The humans moved like nothing the pirates had ever seen. Despite broken bones, despite cuts from the metal, they kept coming. The ship's medical sensors showed injuries that should have stopped any normal being, but the humans ignored them. Their pain receptors, the science officer gasped, they're being suppressed by their own bodies. The other passengers watched in awe as their former protectors became predators. The humans moved with coordinated precision, using improvised weapons and their bare hands. When one was hurt, they didn't stop. They fought harder. Run. A pirate screamed as Bill, bleeding from a cut above his eye, lifted him off the ground with one hand. The human's eyes were wide, pupils dilated, showing what the pirates would later learn was the full effect of an adrenaline rush. The ship's security cameras captured everything. Humans running at full speed through the corridors, chasing pirates who had only seen them walk slowly before. Humans lifting objects twice their weight, their muscles supercharged by their body's emergency response system. They're not stopping. Tom watched in horror as his crew fled from the advancing humans. Why aren't they getting tired? The science officer, checking his readings with shaking hands, found the answer. Their bodies. They're designed for pursuit. They're sweating to cool down. They can keep chasing us until we collapse. The other alien passengers had never seen anything like it. The supposedly weak humans were systematically hunting down armed pirates, displaying strength and speed that defied their previous understanding. The council records, the science officer babbled as they retreated to the bridge. They never mentioned this. Humans can temporarily enhance their physical capabilities by hundreds of %. They can ignore injuries that would stop most species. They're built for this. Through the ship's cameras, they watched as the humans demonstrated why they were Earth's apex predators. When pirates tried to hide, the humans tracked them by sound and scent. When pirates tried to fight, the humans showed combat skills honed by millennia of warfare. Alice, now leading the human hunters, had blood running down her arm from a laser graze. She didn't even seem to notice. Humans evolved as pursuit predators. She called out to the fleeing pirates, "We can track you by your footprints, by your breath on the air, by the heat of your bodies. You can run, but we won't stop." As the last of his crew fell to the relentless human advance, Tom finally understood. The galaxy had fundamentally misunderstood these creatures. They weren't cute. They weren't helpless. They were predators who had simply been patient enough to play along. And now, as emergency signals blazed out into space from the Star Dreamer, the galaxy was about to learn just how dangerous their protected species really was. The hunt was almost over, and the humans were smiling. The security footage from the Star Dreamer spread across the galactic networks like wildfire. In every spaceport, on every planet, beings gathered around screens to watch what had been captured. The first video showed Bill, a human whom most species would have dismissed as too old to be dangerous, breaking a metal door with bare hands. The council's expert analysts watched in silence as his adrenaline-fueled strength twisted steel that was meant to withstand space itself. "Play the next one." First Speaker Reed ordered, his crystalline form dimming with concern. The second clip revealed Alice leading a coordinated hunt through the ship's corridors. The humans moved like a wolf pack, communicating with hand signals and working together to corner their prey. The pirates, despite their advanced weapons, fell one by one to creatures they had dismissed as harmless. "These can't be the same humans we know," a council member protested. "The ones who need our protection, who we treat like pets." The third video silenced all doubts. It showed the humans pursuing pirates for hours without rest, while their prey stumbled and gasped for breath. The humans maintained a steady pace, their bodies cooling through an efficient sweating system that no other species possessed. "They're pursuit predators," the council's chief biologist explained, her tentacles trembling. "They don't need to be faster than their prey. They just need to be more persistent." And they are. Oh, they are. More footage emerged. Humans continuing to fight despite injuries that would incapacitate most species. Humans using improvised weapons with terrifying creativity. Humans tracking pirates by scent and sound, demonstrating hunting skills that had been honed over millennia. In one particularly shocking clip, a human took a direct hit from a stun weapon and kept moving. The Council's weapons expert explained in a shaking voice. Their pain tolerance, it's beyond anything we've seen. When their survival is threatened, they can simply ignore damage that would stop any rational being. The galactic media was in chaos. Headlines flashed across every network. Humans, the apex predators, we never recognized. Councils protected species, reveals true nature. Wo at humans hunt pirates through starship. Trading posts that had once sold cute human items now rushed to remove their stock. Diplomatic offices that had treated human representatives like children suddenly scrambled to revise their protocols. In the council chamber, James Smith sat quietly as the videos played. The human ambassador's calm demeanor now seemed less charming and more predatory. "Why didn't you tell us?" First Speaker Reed asked him, crystal form flickering with agitation. "You never asked," James replied simply. "You were too busy protecting us to notice we didn't need protection." The final piece of footage showed the aftermath. The humans had not killed their captors, a show of mercy that somehow made them even more terrifying. Instead, they had systematically disabled and captured every pirate, demonstrating not just physical superiority, but tactical restraint. "Look at their eyes," the Council's behavioral expert pointed out. "Those aren't the eyes of prey animals. Those are the eyes of hunters who chose to be peaceful until they were provoked." The implications hit the galactic community like a shockwave. Humans weren't just dangerous. They were dangerous enough to hide their true nature, patient enough to play along with being treated as pets, smart enough to wait until the galaxy underestimated them completely. As the videos continued to spread, bringing waves of panic and reassessment, the human ambassadors sat calmly in their cute designated areas, drinking their caffeine, a stimulant that would kill most other species, and watching the galaxy come to terms with its massive miscalculation. The truth was finally out. Humanity had never needed the galaxy's protection. They had simply been polite enough to accept it, right up until the moment someone mistook their kindness for weakness. And now, as the Council scrambled to revise every human-related policy, one thing became crystal clear. The galaxy's cute pets were about to take their rightful place as equals, whether the galaxy was ready or not. 1 month after the Star Dreamer incident, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The Grand Hall, once filled with patronizing smiles toward humans, now held a very different atmosphere. The first item on the agenda, Earth's reclassification. Based on new evidence, First Speaker Reed announced, his crystalline form pulsing with nervous energy, "We must revise Earth's status from Protected Nursery World to Class X Death World." The classification sparked immediate murmurs. Class X was reserved for worlds that produced apex predators capable of interstellar influence. Until now, only 3 planets had earned this designation. James Smith sat at his newly elevated council seat, no longer a decorative position meant to humor cute humans. The footrest was gone. The colorful decorations had been removed. His area now matched every other council member's station. "Would the human representative like to speak?" Reed asked, using the formal address previously reserved for real council members. James stood slowly, noting how several species flinched at his movement. "Earth accepts this reclassification," he said calmly. "Though we want to be clear, nothing about us has changed. We're the same humans you've known all along." Somehow, that statement made the chamber even more uncomfortable. The council's chief scientist presented her findings. Human capabilities previously unknown to us include extreme endurance, adaptive strength, tactical intelligence, pack hunting behaviors, and, she paused, most notably, the ability to conceal these traits while maintaining diplomatic relations. Images from the Star Dreamer played on the chamber's screens. The humans' methodical hunting of the pirates had become famous across the galaxy. Training programs now use the footage to teach what happened when species were underestimated. The rescued passengers report, Reed continued, that the humans protected all civilians during their counterattack. They showed not just strength, but restraint. Not just hunting skill, but strategic thinking. A new motion appeared on the Council's agenda: full voting rights for human representatives. It passed unanimously. Nobody wanted to risk offending the species they now recognized as natural predators. "There's one thing I don't understand," a council member asked James. "Why did you let us treat you like pets for so long?" James smiled, the same smile that had once seemed sweet and now revealed just a hint of predatory patience. "Humans have a saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. We chose to keep everyone close until we knew who was which." The council chambers fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just hidden their physical capabilities. They'd conducted the galaxy's longest intelligence-gathering operation while being completely underestimated. Reports began arriving from across the galaxy. Military academies requesting human combat instructors, trade ships hiring human security teams, diplomatic corps desperately seeking human advisors. The galaxy's cute pets had become its most sought-after allies overnight. As the session ended, James stood to deliver one final message. "Humanity wants to be clear about something," he said, his voice carrying through the silent chamber. "We're not your enemies. We never were. We're explorers, diplomats, and yes, predators. But above all, we're survivors who prefer peace, until peace is no longer an option." The Council's new classification became official. Earth Status UPDAT. Classification: Class X Death World. Species Type: Apex Predator with diplomatic capabilities. Threat Level: Extreme if provoked. Recommended Approach: Respectful cooperation. Special Note: Species demonstrates remarkable restraint despite significant combat capabilities. As James walked out of the chamber, he passed the newly installed warning signs by the human diplomatic quarters. The bright colors and cute decorations were gone, replaced by a simple message: Koichin, human area. They are not pets. They are not prey. They were never weak. They were simply patient. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity had finally taken its place among the stars, not as protected pets, but as equals who had earned their respect through patience, strategy, and, when necessary, the reminder that deep inside every smiling human diplomat lurked the heart of an apex predator. The age of underestimating humanity was over.